Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's short take on life will be a video dedicated to my dad. So as you all know, last week was dedicated to my grandma for teaching me how to bake and how all of this started. So this week it's going to be dedicated to my dad. So to be frank, the next video after this might also be dedicated to my dad, but we will see. So today, we're gonna talk about photography. I'll be saying how it started. It's not a particularly long story, but it's worth telling, nonetheless. As usual, I'll be showing some pictures that showcases my work from the early days to the most current of days, and yeah, like the normal standard. So y'all might be wondering, how did I end up having photography as my hobby? Even if y'all didn't wonder, I'm still gonna tell you either way. So to my knowledge, my dad has been into photography long before I was born. Now, saying this makes it sound very old, but moving on. From what he's told me, his primary choice of camera brand is Nikon, or I don't know how you want to say it. He used to have those classic Nikon film cameras from the pre-digital ages, when you have to like bring the films to a black room or something to develop the pictures. Yeah, those days. But I cannot remember exactly which model he had, but I do remember he has a lot of accessories for it, like lenses, flashes, and stuff, and other accessories. So how did I start? My dad sold his camera and his accessories when I was young, so I didn't get to do much at an early age. I can't exactly remember what age I was. I was young, and my dad bought an Olympus DSLR, the E620 to be exact. Yes, by today's standards, it is very outdated. It is very old. I don't even remember what year it came out, but during that time it would be considered entry to mid-range. It would be considered an entry to mid-range DSLR, but now it's gonna be like an ancient relic or something. So that was how it all started. When I got hold of it, I began fiddling with its settings, and when I don't have it, because my dad would take it back during the weekends, I would spend time learning about photography tips. Like how shutter speed works, how aperture works, and how ISO works. After a while of reading up on these tips, studying them, I began remembering how all these three come into play together. So these three settings will change with each other to make a picture. So what I'm trying to say is that if you, like for example, if you change the aperture, you have to change the shutter speed to suit the aperture. If not, your picture will either be too blurry or too dark, or unless that's the camera effect you're going for. But if you want like a clear picture, your ISO, your aperture, and your shutter speed have to be in harmony, like in sync. Like three of them have to work together. Like they have to be in a correct value, so that when you combine all of them, the picture that comes out is sharp and clear and crisp. So after learning how all of that mumbo jumbo stuff worked, I began using the camera in shutter priority and aperture priority, which is when I stopped using auto. So shutter priority means you adjust the shutter speed and the camera would automatically adjust the aperture based on your shutter speed, and the aperture priority is the same. You adjust the aperture and the camera would adjust the shutter. Now, I didn't start using full manual until, well, later on, because I wasn't confident in knowing which value to use at what time of day and stuff. When I did, however, my photos became much better. As well, in manual mode, I am in full control of the camera. So my dad was influential in me picking up photography as a hobby. These days, though, I'm leaning more towards macro or close-up shots and portraiture. I guess after taking various styles, I just found the style that I like. Like I've done landscape, I've done, I don't know what you call it, like big groups of people kind of photography, where you take big groups of people during events, or I think it's called event photography. I can do those. Like I'm not saying that I'm shying away from those. It's just that I prefer doing macro and portraiture. So the pictures that you have been seeing are the works that I've done. I do hope, like you guys enjoy browsing through my works, and before I end this video, these are some of my recent raw edits in monochrome. So I've decided to try some monochromatic photography, also with asking tips from my dad, because I wanted his opinion, because as I said before, he's been doing this for way longer than I have. So I've been asking him, like, what are his thoughts and if he has any tips for doing photography in black and white. So photography in black and white it's very different from photography in color. Colors stand out. Colors, you can see them, they're bright, they're vibrant, but in a black and white photo, it's mostly grayscale. Like, you have the highlights, which is the highlights are basically the higher it is, the brighter it is, and the lower it is, the darker it is. So basically, you have to find a balance between the dark side and the light side, you know, so that the picture would still be clear and you can still make out what it is. These are just, you know, like the first. I'm not sure if I have any. I think I might have taken some before, but that I didn't really, you know, like go deep into it. But now I actually want to try it more, because I feel like, well, I strongly believe that a picture speaks 1,000 words, and I feel like incorporating this factor or this reason of mine where I believe that pictures speak 1,000 words, combined with the very interesting you know, method of monochromatic photography, I believe that I can tell a stronger story. Like, you can I would be able to create different moods, different atmospheres, is based on black and white and based on the context of the photo. So every one of my photos, I try to tell a story. Like, even if some might not seem like there's a story behind them, there are. Like, to me, there probably is, although I don't really remember. And some of the photos you have seen indeed have people in them. I took their photos during my days as a photographer from my high school as well as my university. Some of the photos, however, might not seem significant, but I am proud of them because every photo I take is with my own skill. I try to shy away from using auto, shutter priority, and aperture priority to using full manual. So I've been wanting to like pursue full manual mode photography for a while, and I'd say my dad has been helping me, you know, like, because, how do I say this? He has tips that I don't know, and I have things, and I know things that he doesn't know. Just because people might know how to do things in, you know, like those olden days, that doesn't mean you can't use those olden tips and tricks and apply it to modern standards, because it's, how do I say this? It's like, when you can incorporate anything in a picture. There's different methods of taking a photo. There's different lighting effects, there's different ways of manipulating pictures, and the way I do photo and the way my dad does photo is very different. It's just like how in the last video I talked about how my grandmother and we share different opinions. Like, she does baking in the classic traditional way, and I do a more modern take of it. But I still use some methods from her olden ways and apply it to my modern take on baking. So it's kind of same as photography. Like, I take some of my dad's ideas and then I try to incorporate it in today's standards. Yeah, well, that took very hard to explain, but there's the explanation. Also, just gonna put it out there, this video somehow made me feel very nostalgic due to, you know, like looking back at old photos. You know, I miss those days, spending time with friends and family as well as my church members. Some might even argue that nostalgic, like pictures, you know, like nostalgic pictures like those from years ago can bring tears of happiness, you know, because we would remember the good old days of how everything was different back then. Truth be told, I did shed tears looking back at the, you know, those pictures, because I miss those days a lot. I miss those days where things were different. I'm not saying they're not good now, I'm just saying I had a lot of fun during, you know, like, I had a lot of fun during my younger years. Anyways, with that, I conclude this week's video here. I hope you guys enjoy browsing through my works throughout the years. If If I remember correctly, these pictures started since 2013 until now 2020. Yeah, I think the first picture I showed from the beginning was from 2013. So once again, a huge thanks to my dad for sharing his passion with me. Without him, all this wouldn't have started. And with that, like this video if you did, dislike it if you didn't, and subscribe if you wish to see more. Also, just want to say that this is just my opinion, when your parents have a passion for something, I would encourage you guys, you know, like, for instance, if your parents are big into gardening and they wish to teach you about gardening, don't shun them away. Like, don't try to say no. Like, experience it. Sometimes they might not be able to tell you why they like it or why they enjoy it, because like it took a long time for me to make this video because I had to figure out why I enjoy photography and how it all started. But sometimes parents might not be able to tell you, so instead they show you why. And I know it can be, you know, annoying sometimes. Parents are naggy, but I implore you to try. I wasn't into photography before this. I didn't know much. All I knew was is you take a picture of memories. Like, if you want to take a picture, you can just take a picture. But my dad showed me more to it. He didn't really know how to explain it, because he explained it to me when I asked him, but he didn't know how to explain it to me when he was sharing it with me. So that's just what I wanted to say. You know, like, if your parents want to share something with you, just listen. Who knows, you might find it interesting and you might even pick it up like how I did. And with that, I end this video here. I will see you guys in my next video.